taken off, and we really can't believe that we're down to our last events. Thank you all for being here tonight and for helping to make this month more than we could ever imagine. Make sure to follow us on our social media at JumpSparkATL and head to our website, roadtriptocollege.org, to sign up for our last couple sessions and to watch past webinars. And with that being said, let's get started. Our panelists representing Rollins today are Joy Harlinking from Admissions, Emily Block from Hillel, and Ren Gunson, a current student at Rollins. As our panelists are presenting, please feel free to enter your questions in the Q&A box. We'll leave plenty of time to answer your questions during the second half of the webinar. I will now hand it over to Joy to present about Rollins.
All right, hello everyone. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so you can see my presentation. So let's give it a second. Okay, hopefully everyone can see that okay. All right, so thank you for that lovely introduction. My name is Joy Harlinking, and I am one of the admission counselors at Rollins College. I'm also an alumni, so I actually graduated just about a year ago with my psychology major and Spanish minor. So throughout the presentation, I can dabble in a few stories about my time at Rollins and how that's impacted me even to this day. And of course, our current student, Ren, will talk about her experience as a student as well, but that's just to give you some context of how I got into this position and why I'm so passionate about Rollins, which you're definitely going to see during the presentation. So to start, I always like to give a general overview of what we stand for, and we are a college of the liberal arts. So what that means is overall, we are providing a very well-rounded education for our students. So no matter what field they go off into after they graduate, they feel prepared and feel like they've been given these really important critical thinking and problem-solving skills. Because nowadays we're noticing that employers aren't necessarily looking for a student who checks off a box of being this one individual major. Instead, they're looking for well-rounded individuals that are going to be thrown a task and able to adapt into whatever it is that they're asked of them in whatever field they go into. And so that's what a liberal arts school is all about. Now at Rollins specifically, there's a few different ways that we make the liberal arts experience unique. And so we're going to get into that a little bit later in the presentation. But starting with a little bit about our history, we were founded in 1885, which actually makes us the oldest college in Florida. So we've been established for many, many years. And that gives us a really great relationship with the town of Winter Park, which is where Rollins is situated. So if you haven't had a chance to visit Orlando or the Winter Park area, highly recommend it when things calm down and you're able to travel again, so you can see just how beautiful our campus is. So obviously on this screen, you can see a picture of our campus and Winter Park in general. And right across the street from our campus is this beautiful shopping and restaurant street called Park Avenue, which is really the heart of Winter Park. And so our students are able to really experience the small town college feel by just walking across the street to go experience Park Avenue. There's also a farmer's market there every Saturday, which was my personal favorite thing to do as a student, mainly so I could pet people's dogs. But the point is our students are always getting involved in the Winter Park community. And then if they're looking for the bigger city vibe, downtown Orlando is only 15 to 20 minutes away. So it's very easily accessible for our students to get that bigger city feeling as well. There's actually a local commuter train on Park Avenue that takes our students to the greater Orlando area for only $1 each way. So it's very accessible to go to some of the bigger events that happen. For example, if you're interested in sports, you can go see the Orlando Magic play, or you can go see the ice hockey team, the Solar Bears. If you're into the arts, we have the Dr. Phillips Performing Arts Center, so you can go experience a Broadway play. Or we have the Amway Center, which is a big arena for any of our concerts that come through. But the point is, being in this thriving city gives you plenty to do on the weekends, even after class. If you want to go explore the city, whatever it may be, we have a very busy area in general. To break down the demographics of Rollins, we have just over 2,000 students. So that makes us a very small and personal, intimate environment for learning. And I would say that's a majority of the students' reasons why they choose to attend Rollins, because they want that individualized experience on campus. Now, 50% of our students are from the state of Florida, 40% are coming from out of state, and then we are 10% international, which is something we're very proud of and always looking to expand. One of our mission statements is to help our students become global citizens. And we think, of course, one of the best ways to do that is by exposing our students to perspectives from all around the world, even within their classroom environment itself. Now, of course, study abroad, it goes along with that, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But yes, that is something we're very excited about, being 10% international. So Rollins Gateway is kind of the symbol of the Rollins experience for every individual student. And while it's going to look differently for every student based on what they decide to major in or activities they're involved in, it really is going to always compose of these three elements. And those elements are the future-proof education, your liberal arts in action, and then your Rollins results, or where you go at the end of your time at Rollins. We're really going to dive into the first two because those are the most important things before you decide where you go after you graduate. So we'll talk about those two now. Starting with your future-proof education, because that's the main reason we're at college, right? We're there to learn and be in that classroom. The average class size is only about 17 students, and typically classes are capped at around 20 to 25. So you're never going to be in one of these giant lecture halls where a TA might be teaching or helping out, because we don't even have TAs on our campus. The biggest lecture hall we would have maybe fits about 25 students, like I was saying, with that cap. So you're always going to be getting that individualized attention within the classroom. Our student to faculty ratio is about 10 to 1. And I think one of the reasons we've been ranked so highly for our commitment to undergrad teaching is because of how above and beyond our professors go to really make sure every student is getting that individualized attention both during and after their time at Rollins. So they really do go above and beyond. Just looking back at my personal experience, I had one professor that I got so close with. She trusted me to cat sit for her on the weekends, which at bigger universities, you might not get that opportunity if you don't even know your professor. Another example is my advisor, who I did research with. Him and I got so close that to this day, even though I've been graduated for over a year, he still reaches out once a month to check in on me, see how I'm doing, and we used to get lunch on Park Ave before the world shut down. But the point is, the teachers really do go above and beyond even after you graduate. And this is going to be really important when you're looking for those career opportunities and those rec letters. Sometimes students even complain, oh, how am I going to choose which professor will write me a rec letter? And that's a really good problem to complain about. Now, the final thing I'll mention about the academic experience in general is our student to faculty collaborative research program. So I know when we typically hear the word research, our mind might jump to an image like the one on the screen of science labs and being in the science classroom with the white lab coat. But research at Rollins is very vast and very broad and goes far beyond just the sciences. So every student of every major is encouraged, if they'd like to get involved in research. So for example, some students will stay during the summers to participate in research alongside a professor, and they can actually get paid for these opportunities. So they would be conducting graduate level research and paid for these opportunities at the undergrad level. For example, I had a friend who actually was a theater major, and she stayed last summer on campus to do research on 1920s murder mysteries because they were putting on a huge improv play on our campus. And she was doing the research for that play and then actually got to use that research to help put on the play. And then another option is if during your senior year, let's say you want to get involved in research and do your own thesis project, you can completely design and conduct your own study for whatever major that you're in. So as a psych major, I decided to do a senior thesis project, investigating how we could increase empathy through our conversations. I found wonderful results and actually was able to have that journal published in an academic journal online. So research can get you really far academically at Rollins. Now, a little bit more about the curriculum specifically. Given that we're a liberal arts school, you're of course going to be taking these classes outside your major, but we do that a little differently. And so we always say that your curriculum is broken into thirds. Starting with the first third, that's going to be your major. That's exactly what you think you want to study when you go to college. I say think because a lot of times students will say for sure they're going to study this one thing, try it out, and then end up hating it. And that is absolutely okay. So we actually say that you don't have to declare your major until the end of your sophomore year. That gives you those first 2 years to really play around with different options before you have to officially declare. We have over 60 different majors and minors to choose from. I would say some of the most popular include the businesses like communications, international business marketing, etc. Psychology is very popular, and then a lot of the sciences like biology, chemistry, marine biology, stuff like that. So that's enough about major. The second third is going to be in electives. Those are those extra fun classes that you decide to take that you're just always been curious about. So just like in high school, how you might pick out a random art class or theater class, all of those classes are going to be included into your credit hours. And we actually, encourage our students to take some fitness classes even for credit. For example, one of the most popular classes we offer is the scuba diving class. And so students actually take this to get their scuba diving certification by going to the Cayman Islands at the end of the semester. Wonderful class, probably the most popular, but that's just a few examples of electives that we offer. But elective space also gives you room to experiment with some of our pre-health, pre-law, pre-med programs. So, if you are interested in any of those fields, we have these track programs where we encourage you to, of course, have a separate major, but then being on this track program, you're taking those classes that are really important to help you get into a law program or a med school after you graduate. So elective space can be really useful as well. Now, the final third year classes are going to be in the liberal arts curriculum specifically that we've designed, which is called the Rollins Foundation in Liberal Arts. So at other liberal arts schools, they might do what I like to jokingly call the alphabet soup system, which means they say, okay, we need you to take your H credit or your humanities credit. We need you to take your S credit or your science credit, etc. But then students have to go to the course catalog, find an H or an S class, and then are thrown into this class filled with students who are majoring in the science or majoring in the humanities course, and they might feel a little lost. So our curriculum is specifically designed for non-majors. That way you're always going to be taking one of these extra classes that is with other students who aren't necessarily majoring in that subject. And so you're getting that education, but through a lens that is not necessarily as specific to that field. So for example, some of our science classes in that curriculum are science of chocolate or science of superheroes. So you're still getting that chemistry or physics lens, but in a really unique and fun way with all these students from all these different majors and perspectives. So they're really fun. My personal favorite was called Fashion in the Global World. It was a fashion and art history based class, and we were exploring how fashion changed throughout history through art. I mean, as a psych major, I promise you, I never would have thought I would take an art history class, and yet it was so fascinating and probably one of my favorite classes I took at Rollins. Let's move away from the academic experience and now dive into more of the programs we offer outside of the classroom. So that's going back to that gateway slide where we were talking about liberal arts in action, or how are you becoming that individual that's very well-rounded, but by doing things outside the classroom. So study abroad, as I mentioned in the beginning, very popular program. 77% of our students study abroad at least once during their time at Rollins. And the national average is around 20 to 25% for most colleges. So you can see that we're far surpassing that number. I like to say that that's probably for two different reasons. One is because we really encourage it. So we have a running joke that we spend all this time trying to get you to deposit and come to campus. And then as soon as you're a Rollins student, we spend all 4 years trying to send you away. We joke when we say that, but the point is we just encourage all students to look into it if they would like to. And the second reason I think it's so popular is because any financial aid and scholarship that you receive to be on our campus for a semester would actually follow you abroad. That way, you would be paying the exact same amount to go to one of our affiliated 60+ programs. So like, let's say you went to Germany for a semester. You'd pay the exact same amount to be in Germany as you would be to be on our campus for a semester. So it's very accessible, and we try to do that so that our students have these wonderful opportunities. So personally, as a student, I was fortunate enough to go abroad twice. I did a semester program if you're looking to do, full semester away. I did that in London, and what was great about this program is they actually set you up with an internship while you're in that country. So not only was I living and studying in London, but I was also doing an internship and working in London. So now I have an international internship on my resume, which is wonderful. Now, another opportunity is our summer programs. If you'd like to only do a shorter program, 4 to 6 weeks long. So I did that as well. I went to Madrid for a whole summer in Spain, and this was for my minor. I was taking classes for my minor, but what was great about this program is they set you up with a host family who only speaks Spanish. So you really, really do have to immerse yourself into the culture, into the language, and I can proudly say I am now proficient in Spanish. I don't like to say fluent, but I'll say I'm proficient. But the point is there's so many options to explore. Those are just 2 examples, but there's plenty more to choose from, and you can explore online. Now, besides studying abroad, we also are very passionate as a whole about community service. So one of our famous alum, Fred Rogers, or Mr. Rogers from Mr. Rogers Neighborhoods, his motto was life is for service. And because of that, we've kind of adopted that motto onto our campus. So that's another great opportunity to get involved in. We have a wonderful tradition called Spark Day. If you're looking to get involved but aren't sure necessarily what community service project you want to get into, Spark Day is great because during orientation week, all the first year students go out and meet our community partners in Winter Park to see the different options they have to give back. And so it's a day of service, wonderful tradition. And since it's during orientation week, this is a great way to meet your friends through service. So after that day, of course, there's no study or community service requirement at all. It's completely up to you, but a lot of our students do like to get involved. One other thing I'll mention is our community engagement courses, which are very popular at Rollins. These are courses that you're taking for credit, of course, but built into class time once a week. You go out into the community to take what you've learned in the classroom and put it to good use. So an example of that I took was we were working with adults with autism in the community because we were learning about how the theater and the arts in general can actually help with communication with adults with autism. And so we learned that in the classroom and then got to actually do these theater games with the adults and helped them put on a big play of Hamlet and Lion King that they came and performed on our campus at the end of the semester. So it was very rewarding, so great to get out of the classroom once a week, and overall just a really fun course to take. Besides that, we have over 125 different student organizations to choose from. You can see a few listed on the screen, of course, ranging from our debate team to our student government, which is very active, religious and cultural organizations, which I know Emily Block will talk to you about in a bit, fraternity sorority life, etc. But there's plenty to get involved in. And just in general, a typical Rollins student is not just in one organization. I would say on average, they're involved in 2 to 3 organizations, if not more. So in general, our student body is very involved. And since we are so small, it's really easy to get involved and become leaders of these organizations as you get older. If I have any sports players watching right now, we do have 23 NCAA D2 teams to choose from. You can see on our screen that are listed here. So if you're looking to play on one of our D2 teams, I highly recommend you get in contact with the coaches if possible, and you can find their information on our website. Now, if you don't want to necessarily play on a D2 team and you just want to get involved in club sports, we have those as well. These are typically student-led, so if you want to create an intramural, for example, I know there was an intramural Quidditch team back when I was a freshman, which is funny to think about now. But yes, there's plenty to choose from and plenty of intramurals you can create and lead if that's something you're interested in. All right, so that was enough about the Rollins experience as a whole, and I know that Ren and Emily are going to get more into that in a bit, so I'll leave the rest of that to them. But now I'll talk a little bit about the admission process itself, or what you need to do to apply and attend Rollins. So in general, I'm going to start by saying we have a very holistic review process, meaning we really do look at every part of the application equally. There's not one part that kind of weighs over the other. Another thing I'm going to mention is that you can apply in 3 different ways. You can apply through the common application, the coalition application, or through our own Rollins Select application on our website. And again, no preference on which one you decide to apply with. It's up to you. All right, so let's break these parts down. Starting with the GPA, our average unweighted GPA is about a 3.4. Now, if you're here unweighted and that kind of scares you, don't worry. We are still looking at the rigor of your classes. So if you're taking APs, IBs, dual enrollment, whatever it may be, we're really going to be taking that into account to see how much you're pushing yourself in your school. Let's move on to standardized tests, everyone's favorite. Our average SAT is 1220 to 1360, and our average ACT is 25 to 30. And again, that's middle 50%. So if you're falling above or below, of course, we're going to look at those scores as well. One thing to keep in mind is we do super score the SAT, but we do not super score the ACT. So for the SAT, if you take it multiple times, we will look at your highest composite score of all the times you've taken it. You don't have to do SAT and ACT. You're welcome to choose one or the other. Or in general, we are test score rate optional. So if you don't feel comfortable submitting your test scores for whatever reason, we know with everything going on with COVID, and we know that the testing environments are going to be different, or even in general, if you just aren't the best test taker, there is no penalty for that whatsoever. And we want to give all of our students equal opportunity and chance. So we are completely test score rate optional, no penalty. So you're just welcome to not submit your test scores if you don't have them. All right, let's dive into the best part of the application, which is the holistic side. So every admission counselor's personal favorite part of the application is the essay. That's going to be that one space on the application where you as the student get to speak directly to us as the counselor. And because of that, we really want you to choose a topic that represents and shows us who you are. So this can be just something you're passionate about, or even how your hair defines you. Or my personal favorite that I read last year was about how a girl was allergic to apples, and yet every year she still ate an apple once a year to show herself how much she could overcome anything. Don't worry, it wasn't like a throat closing up kind of allergy. It was just some red itchiness or something like that. But the point is, she wrote this whole essay about how she persevered through anything because she shows herself she can. And that really stuck out to me. And it was something so random. So you can really make any essay wonderful and show us who you are if you really have someone proofread it and choose a unique topic. The next thing you'll do is list out your involvement. So that's going to be all those activities that you're doing outside of the classroom. So any organizations you're involved in, even a part-time job or babysitting or volunteering, whatever it may be, we want to see what you are dedicating your time to. And the final component of the application is a recommendation letter. We only require one, and that's going to come from your high school guidance counselor. Now, if you happen to have others that have written ones for you, let's say a teacher or a coach or someone who you work with, whatever it may be, you're welcome to submit those as well. We just say keep it on average 2 to 3. That way we're not having to read like 17, which has happened before. So we just say keep it on average about 2 to 3, or you're welcome to only submit the one if you'd like. Let's talk about a few of our deadlines briefly before we move on to Emily and Ren's part of the presentation. So we do have 2 different decision deadlines. We have early decision and regular decision. So early decision is, of course, if you are saying, I 100% want to attend your institution and I'm definitely going to commit to coming to you, that's when you're going to apply early decision to whatever school that may be for you, if you'd like. So just keep in mind that because we know, and there's a hefty commitment to make, we have a marginal benefit on those applications, as well as some other great benefits, like early admission decision notification. You hear back about a month later. We get priority scholarship consideration, priority first semester course scheduling, all these great benefits to show that we are really grateful that you've decided to commit to Rollins and say that you really want to attend. And so again, because we know this is a big commitment, we've given 2 deadlines for early decision. That way you can take more time to think about it. So the first one, if you wanted to apply in round 1, you'd apply by November 1st, and you'd hear back no later than December 15th. Now our early decision round 2, you'd apply by January 5th and hear back no later than February 1st. As for regular decision, our deadline in general is February 1st, and you'd hear back no later than April 1st. But just something to keep in mind is even if you decide to apply regular decision to Rollins, we just recommend getting that application in by November 1st if you can. That way you get considered for all of our priority scholarship. So for example, our biggest scholarship called the Alfond, which is a full tuition and room and board scholarship, is only available up until the November 1st deadline. And so we really want those applications in for those candidates as early as possible. So speaking of financial aid and scholarships, we're going to dive into that now, which is the last thing I'll talk about today. I'm also going to preface this by saying I am not a financial aid expert whatsoever. I definitely know the basics and can answer some basic questions about financial aid. But if you do have very specific questions, I'd be happy to provide to you a link of email or possibly phone number of our financial aid office. So to start, I'll say that 85% of our students receive some form of financial aid. And this can kind of come from two different ways. It can either come from the merit-based scholarship side or the need-based side. For the merit-based side, that's going to be awarded from our office to you simply by applying. So if you apply, you will be considered for all of our merit-based scholarships with no extra application whatsoever. Those range from around 10 to 30,000. And of course, we're mainly going to be looking at the GPA/transcript and test scores for those scholarships. If you happen to apply test score waived, you can still be considered for our merit-based scholarships. Those are going to range from more like 10 to 15,000 though, rather than the 10 to 30,000 range. So that is really the only difference between our test score waived students and our regular students who apply with test scores. So that's about the merit-based side. And then for the need-based side, you would fill out something called the FAFSA, which you could submit to our financial aid office. You can find it online, and it typically opens October 1st of every student's senior year. And so by filling that out and submitting it, our financial aid office would assess the situation, see what kind of grants and loans could be awarded, and combine that with the merit-based scholarships so that you'd see exactly how much you'd be paying to attend Rollins each semester. Now, for my Florida students watching, we do accept Florida Prepaid and Florida Bright Futures. I know that someone did have a question about Florida Bright Futures before the chat. And to briefly address that, since we are a private school, it works a little differently. It's not actually by credit hours. As long as you're taking, I believe it's 16 credit hours each semester, then it is a set price. So it's not like, oh, you're only taking 12, well, then you get this amount instead. It's that you would get the same amount that you've been awarded by Bright Futures onto your financial aid letter every single year, as long as you are receiving a similar GPA. And all the specifics of that are broken down on our website as well. I'd be happy to provide a link so that you can see exactly how much is awarded depending on your GPA and test scores. So we can always address that later as well. But I believe that is everything about financial aid. There's definitely a lot of ways you can continue to connect with us after today. On our website, we have a virtual tour if you'd like to see the campus for yourself before you come visit, which I highly recommend. You can also participate in admission counselor video chats. So like me, there's 8 of us in our office that love to meet individually one-on-one with students, of course, virtually right now. So on our website, if you'd like to sign up for one of those one-on-one chats, you're welcome to do so. Plus, I'm going to tell you now, it's definitely a benefit because then when we read your application, we remember you. So it's definitely a benefit to do one of those. And then if you wanted to just go visit our website, there's all the information about different majors that we offer. But yes, that is everything. And I'm now going to pass it over to Ren, our current student, who is going to share all the wonderful things she knows about Rollins as a current student. So thank you for listening to my presentation.
Hi, I'm Ren Gunson. I'm the incoming president of Rollins Hillel, and I'm a junior majoring in environmental studies and with minors in Jewish studies and Middle Eastern and North African studies. So I chose to go to Rollins because my older brother actually went here, and I spent a lot of time with him on campus when I was in high school. So it's felt like home since I was probably about 15 years old. And Rollins has really, really become my home away from home because it's so small and so comfortable. As Joy was talking about, our school is very small and class sizes are very small. I think it's on average about less than 20 students. So you really get to know your professors individually, and they know you by your name instead of by where you sit or what your laptop looks like, which you might get at a larger university. The classes are also very discussion based and you really engage with your professors and with your classmates. And I really enjoy that because I think it helps my learning experience a lot. It's really wonderful to get to know your professors because you can get great letters of recommendation from them. You can get to know them and work on independent studies and field studies with them. That's one of the wonderful things that Rollins offers. If I could change literally anything about Rollins, the only thing would be the food. When my brother first started going here, the food was really, really good, but I think in his junior year, they changed suppliers and it hasn't been the same since then. I really love the dining staff and there's some really good things, but for the most part, I wish we could go back. So as I mentioned, Rollins has really become my home, but especially Rollins Hillel. We are located in the chapel on campus, and you can always find me studying in there in the lounge or in Emily Block's office talking with her. She's our director of Jewish Student Life. I have been really involved in Hillel since I first started at Rollins. I took a gap semester after I graduated high school, and in that gap semester, I went to Israel in December with UCF on Birthright. And because of my experience there, I really wanted to be involved in Jewish life on campus. It was really important to me. It was really something I was looking forward to. So my Birthright staff member actually got in contact with Emily Bach, and he gave her my name and my email, my Facebook, I think. And she messaged me and we got coffee. And since then, I've been going to Shabbat pretty regularly. And I've been on the board for about 2 years. I made some of my best friends at Hillel. It's been really wonderful to be able to engage in my Jewish identity and with the Jewish community on campus and watch it grow. Emily has done a really good job of helping grow the Jewish community and making people feel safe and at home at Shabbat dinners. And we do this thing called Hillel Happening every other week where we just sit in the chapel lounge and we have lunch and we watch a movie or listen to music or just talk with other students. It's really welcoming environment and everyone just loves it. It's one of my favorite things that we do. It's really a safe place on campus and something that I really love. So I'm very happy to be able to introduce Emily Block, our Hillel director. She is wonderful and has done a great job with the Jewish community on campus. So here she is to answer more questions about Jewish life.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ren. As Ren said, my name is Emily Block, and I'm the Associate Director of Jewish Student Life at Rollins. So my role is really, I always sum it up as to grow and enhance the Jewish life on campus. So I get to work with incredible student leaders like Ren to create their community for them, with them. And so I always like to start with some of the stats because that's usually people's first question. It's always like, how many Jewish students are there at Rollins? So I like to start with the numbers and then get into some of the details. So there are 200 Jewish undergraduate students at Rollins, which is about 10% of the population, and about another 100 graduate students as well. And those students tend to come from pretty much like the stats that Joy showed you, predominantly Florida and South Florida, and then the Northeast, and then a smattering of the rest of the country. So Ren actually mentioned Hillel, but just for context purposes, Hillel is the Jewish student organization at Rollins. So it's really the home away from home for Jewish students to be able to create their own Jewish community, to find other students, to learn more. We have a variety of different Jewish educational experiences, to gain leadership experience and opportunities, and just a place to be themselves, to explore what being Jewish means to them on their own terms. And really, we're a pluralistic community. So we have Jewish students that went to seminary, and we have Jewish students that come from interfaith homes, and everyone in between. And we have students, and we actually have students that are not Jewish, that come to our events as well. And either they have a friend who went and they went with them, or they wanted to learn more, or maybe they just wanted free food and they got our email. And we love welcoming in them all. And it's a great educational opportunity to be able to learn from them and them learn from us, and vice versa. So our focus at Rollins Hillel is really to educate, engage, and empower our students. And we do that through a student-led, staff-facilitated model. So really, everything that we do is based on relationships. It's based on that community of getting to know students, getting to know what they're passionate about, what matters to them, and then empowering them to be able to make that happen on campus for themselves and for their peers. So for instance, we had a student who came 2 years ago at this point, and I was talking with her, and she said, I just did a gap year in Israel. I'm passionate about Israel. And there's no Israel education student group on campus. And I said, yeah, you're right. And she was like, can I make one? Absolutely. Yeah, let's sit down and talk about what that looks like. And so we now have TARS for Israel, which is our Israel Education and Advocacy student group on campus, and they do some really amazing things that I'm going to talk about in a second. So the amazing thing about Rollins is that it is truly an entrepreneurial school, and then the sky is the limit. As Ren mentioned, we offer a variety of experiences, such as Shabbat, which we have a wonderful dinner every other week in the chapel with students from all different backgrounds where we do the blessings. There's always the Devar, people hang out, we have good food, the Jewish holidays as well, so the high holidays. And then my personal favorite thing that we have is, unfortunately pre-COVID, is Passover at the President's house. So President Cornwell actually opens up his home to the Jewish community, and we have about 100 people in his living room. It's a large living room, and they host Passover for us, and it's a beautiful Seder that is interfaith and integrated, and it's really amazing. We also have a variety of other Jewish learning experiences, such as Did You Know, which is a Jewish lunch and learn, and that's been on a variety of topics. Hillel Happening, which Ren mentioned, pop-up for happy hours, which is where like I'll sit in the cafe and students can find me, and we'll have a cup of coffee and just chill and hang out. And then also community service as well. Just as service is fundamental at Rollins in general, it's also a cornerstone of what we do at Hillel. So for instance, we did something called Reverse Tashlich this past fall, where we actually went to our own beautiful Lake Virginia on our campus. And rather than the custom of Tashlich of throwing in sins, we actually cleaned up the lake and took the sins of essentially our community, our collective Rollins community out of the water. And we collected, I think, like close to 15 pounds of trash. It was significant. And then lastly, we also have a variety of immersive experiences that we offer, such as APAC, Birthright, we do twice a year, so winter and summer, as well as the JNF conference. And then just a quick academic to touch upon is there is a Jewish studies program as well. So students can actually minor in Jewish studies. It's as well as study abroad in Tel Aviv, which I know Joey showed on the list. So we have a variety of different experiences and opportunities offered to students. And like I said, truly the sky is the limit. If you're ever on campus, I would love to meet up with you and get to know you and just hear about you and what you're looking for. And you can also follow us on social media. So at Rollins Hillel on both Facebook and Instagram. And that's a great place to stay updated as well to all the things that we have going on. So I think that is it for myself. And now I believe we're opening up to questions.
Yes, thank you, Emily. I'm going to ask all our presenters to turn their cameras back on so we can start our Q&A session. Let me pull them up. This first question is for you, Ren. How do you balance your academic and social life? There's so many great opportunities at Rollins. How do you balance the two?
I stay really busy. So I work on campus, I have my friends, and I have classes. So I'm busy pretty much every second of the day. I think the best way to manage it is have a routine. So when we were still on campus and everything, before everything got messed up, I would have a very strict routine. I would get up at a certain time, out the door at a certain time, and come home at a certain time. So I live off campus and I commute. So it's a little bit more busy, but as long as you stay on top of everything, it's pretty easy to manage. But when you lose a little bit or you fall behind, it can become very stressful. But the best way to keep it from becoming stressful is to keep a routine.
Awesome, thank you. Joy, this next question is for you. What mental health resources or wellness options does Rollins offer?
Yeah, great question. So health and wellness kind of comes in two ways. We have, of course, the physical side and the psychological side. And so our wellness center kind of addresses both of those. So we do have doctors and nurses on campus that students can either make an appointment with or do walk-ins, depending on like the severity. And of course, if necessary, they will refer them out to local hospitals or doctors in the area. And then for the psychological and mental health services side, we have our app service. They are fantastic. And of course, they do walk-ins as well, but they also do student appointments. So if students want to regularly see a counselor to discuss anything that might be going on, so it doesn't have to be severe issues. It could even be, I'm struggling in a class or I'm feeling homesick or anxious or whatever it may be, they can either set up an appointment or do a drop-in. And they're wonderful. I know so many students that have used them just to have someone to talk to. It's honestly a great opportunity. And it's free counseling, which is the only time in your life you'll get free counseling.
Great, thank you. Emily, this next question is for you. Are there kosher food options on campus or any nearby that you offer?
Yeah, so we do have kosher options that are close to campus. We are about 7 minutes from Trader Joe's, which has a wide variety. I mean, it's my favorite place in the world in general, but they have a variety of kosher options, including kosher meat as well. And we can work with Residential Life to be able to provide students an apartment with a kitchen for students that keep kosher. And we also have kosher food for Shabbat that is certified OU.
Great. Ren, what clubs or extracurriculars would you recommend for incoming students?
So LL obviously is really great. I also really like, as Danny was talking about, the Rollins Color Scholars, which is for students who are really passionate about service animals. It's a very wonderful club, and the work that they're doing is really cool. There's also a board game club for people who want to just relax and hang out with their friends. We also have Amnesty International on campus, and they do a lot of volunteer work, and they do a lot of social justice work, which is incredible. So those are just ones that popped up in my head, but those are the best ones.
Great. Joy, what percentage of the students would you say are involved in Greek life at Rollins?
43% this past year, but it really varies on the year, but it's always close to between 45 and 50. I always say about half. And then what's great about our Greek life is it's not very exclusive. So every student can somehow be involved, even if they haven't rushed or aren't in an organization, meaning they can still attend the community service events, they can be invited to formals, whatever it may be. I feel like in general, it's just a very inclusive environment. Even if you decide not to rush, or even if you are in it, you have friends in other organizations.
Great. I see this last question is for Ren. What advice would you give to seniors going through the college admissions process?
Really focus on what you want to do, not really what's expected of you, but think personally about yourself rather than trying to please people around you. I think so, because it's your life. You don't want to go into debt over something you're not passionate about. So really think about yourself first.
Really great advice. Thanks, Ren. That seems to be our last question. So I really want to thank our awesome presenters today for this awesome session. I want to thank everyone who joined us for the session as well. And just to let you all know, our last two sessions are tomorrow and Tuesday. Tomorrow is Wake Forest at 5 p.m. and Tuesday is Vanderbilt at 5 p.m. as well. Reminder, when you close this webinar, there is a feedback survey. So please fill it out so we can get some helpful feedback for our road trip. And if you want to register for our upcoming sessions, head to roadtriptocollege.org and follow our social media at JumpSparkATL. Once again, all our sessions are being recorded, so make sure to check out our YouTube channel to see all our sessions. Thanks everyone, and have a great night.
Have a nice night.